How you guys doing? We're going to be opening up the floor to discussion today on Kingdom Come, written by Mark Waid and Alex Ross. I'm Quinn.
I'm Jacob.
I'm Allie.
I'm Darryl K.
And we're going to be opening up the floor with our summary for tonight.
So basically, Kingdom Come opens up where the DC characters have gone into retirement. They're trusting the world in the hands of Magog, who they feel is competent and can lead the next generation of superheroes to protect the world. However, unfortunately, this new generation the lines are blurred now that the new superheroes do by any means necessary to take what they need, get who they want. So there's no distinction between good and evil. And now Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman, among many others, are coming out of retirement to challenge Magog in his ways.
Alright, so let's open up the floor to discussion. You want to go first, Darryl?
I love this book. This is actually one of my favorite books that I have read in the past 5 years. Mainly just because my boy Flash is in it and he's pretty broken, living between the seconds. But one thing I want to touch on that always caught my eye about this book is that, so apparently when Superman gets older, he just gets way more stronger, right?
Yes.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Okay, apparently. Okay, I just want to make sure we was all on the same page with that. But one of the things I also wanted to bring up too, getting into this, was that how powerful do you technically become before you consider yourself a god? I mean, because basically in Kingdom Come, it's kind of just like all the superheroes are even more powerful than they usually are in the DC continuity. So, to a certain extent, I mean, they consider themselves gods. I mean, Green Lantern came to live on Earth no more. He made himself a mansion in space, orbiting the planet. I mean, I don't know, guys. How y'all feel about that?
And I might as well add Green Lantern, not only, he's one of many different variations of this Elseworld story. He's actually the last Green Lantern. And so, I mean, he's quite literally living on the last of Ella's power. Like Darryl said, he Flash is living between seconds.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. But I really like these iterations of the superheroes. I can honestly say that Superman's symbol on his chest is almost as iconic as the original, as far as people, comic book fan or otherwise, actually go.
You ever notice how Superman, when they designed him, when they gave him that buckle, that circle buckle?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that look was kind of different. Superman never had a circle buckle.
No, he didn't.
It's to go back to the God question or term. It's one of the reasons that in the comic book they are so feared by the world, not just because they're metahumans, because they've seen superheroes get to the power level of a Superman or a Magog, and you start to fear them on a higher level than you fear metahumans. So you can really feel that undertone and a lot of biblical undertone throughout the whole book. Not just that the first character goes off on a rant of biblical knowledge, but throughout the book they're referred to as gods. They're often, their actions are fulfilling a biblical prophecy. And I think that's very interesting to do, because it's very dangerous to take the comic book world and mix it with the biblical world.
But DC's also known for that.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, just something recently, Jeff Johns has expressed to us the first time that hate was ever breathed into the world of DC Comics was when Cain stoned Abel.
Yeah, I mean, that is the new
So the fact that if you guys don't know, this story is in the eyes of the Spectre and a Christian pastor.
Yeah.
So I mean that's really cool. This is a world that hasn't happened yet, but he's actually looking into what the future could be if things aren't, measures aren't done to take the step.
Yeah, Spectre basically kidnaps the guy. Like, yeah, he really does.
And it's also kind of reminiscent of A Christmas Story.
A Christmas Carol, yeah.
Christmas Carol.
Yeah, it actually is.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like the ghost of Christmas future.
Exactly.
The ghost of DC
One of
future.
the most epic shots of the Gantlet, and who else is there? Gantlet, Zeus,
Yeah.
the Wizard Shazam, that whole just picture of them. And it's like, it's pretty awesome. The high beams up.
I like when they're all in there and they're just looking at all these villains sitting together, and by the time the Spectre and the pastor leave, he said, "We've spent enough time in this room full of sin." It's just like you can see that he's got this job or this mission to take the pastor and show him what can happen, but inside, he's still a Spectre. He wants to wreak havoc on this room because he knows just so much sin in there.
Right, and Spectre's always been questionable for me. Whether he draws the line between death and destruction or procreation or life. because there's even been times where he's, people have questioned his actions, and he's able to show, like, listen, this is what needs to be done.
Well,
for the
no,
greater good.
no, yeah, that is true. Usually he gets his way, except against Atroclus. He did not get his way against Atroclus.
Yeah.
Well, even inside of this trade, the pastor is begging him to, like, stop this, like, bloodshed from happening, and he goes, I cannot, I'm only here to judge.
Right.
And so he doesn't step in, he controls himself.
Right, he's very much like the Marvel's watcher. He's there to observe and to judge.
And which is more reminiscent of A Christmas Carol. Because if you remember when the Ghost of Christmas Future is showing him things may come, Scrooge begs him to, like, please, can I change my ways? Is it possible to change this? So that's a good relationship right there.
Right. I do have to ask you guys, who is your favorite character out of the different iterations of this?
Wonder Woman.
I think I've said enough.
Not gonna lie, you already know I love my chick Wonder Woman, but I just love how Flash literally grabs people out of dimensions. That's pretty cool.
I think one of my favorites, and this is also because I really like Green Lantern, is I really like Alan Scott. He's come beyond that whole magical source and has also been like Oa's future.
Yeah. Other than the obvious reasons of me being a Superman fan, which we could talk about for another 3 hours, in this book they show a more mortal side of him. There's doubt in the man's eyes. I mean,
Right.
if he's their symbol for God in the book, and a God has this much doubt, it makes you question. He doesn't know if he should become a superhero again. He doesn't know if he can clean the world up. And for Superman not knowing if he can do right, I think those are complexities in a character that aren't often shown in comic books, especially if you go back to the classic definition of Superman. I'm saving the world and there's no problem. But in this, he's more mortal in his thought process. And I think that's very interesting writing.
And I do like this iteration of Superman a lot better than I do the Dark Knight Returns. I felt like it's not something that Superman would do as far as follow the government because it's what he is told to do. Yes, he is a Boy Scout, but he also does have his own morals and justifications of why he does things.
Exactly.
And this book definitely touches up on his more moral, his moral upbringings and things like that, which is really cool.
What didn't you like about the book, Quinn?
I didn't like how there wasn't enough Aquaman, but I understood why Aquaman didn't get involved though. I
And
mean,
you know what? That was one of the costumes I hated the most, was Aquaman.
you didn't like this? I thought it was pretty cool.
No, but you know what? One of my favorite moments of the book, going back to your question, kind of, I really like Red Robin in this. Once again, I love seeing anything that shows what was otherwise a sidekick or a secondary character and turning him into something more. What I really didn't like about this book, there wasn't much that I really didn't like. This and the book Justice by Mark Waid as well, I believe, is also, they're really great stories. They're never going to happen, but there's a reason why this comic's a legend.
Well, the funny thing is that if we want to get technical, and Justice is kind of has similarities to
And they do.
Kingdom Come a lot. They actually do, actually.
And they do.
They do. Like, I finally found a picture of all the cosmic powers together when you got Zeus, Gantlet, Wizard Shazam, High Fowler, all of them just chilling there. Like, that's just so cool. And Deadman's there too. That's just so. And I mean, just to give you a glimpse of how powerful these guys are, you just got Wonder Woman and Superman sitting outside Green Lantern's mansion inside, and they're just skipping asteroids. I mean, who's skipping asteroids? Who does that like on a daily basis for fun? I mean, one of the most interesting scenes I actually found in the book was the conversation between Superman and Orion.
Yeah.
Remember when he went to Apocalypse? I mean, how did you feel about that, Alan?
I mean, I'm a newcomer to the DC world, but it was very interesting. I'm obviously familiar with the Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman trifecta, but I find it's very similar to Marvel Civil War for me because you have, in this case, it's generational divide between the newcomers and the original Justice League and everything, but it was definitely interesting to see how everyone had matured. I really appreciated Wonder Woman's struggles with wanting to reclaim her throne and become the woman who she feels like she needs to be for her people, and how that affects her actions and becomes like the wedge between her and Superman. So I really appreciated that aspect of the story a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
get into closing out the story or whatever. What was the thing that surprised you the most? I'm not gonna sit up here and say I was surprised about Wonder Woman and Superman hooking up, but them having a kid.
And then asking Batman to be the godfather.
Yeah, Batman raising Superman, Wonder Woman kid. That's kind of really
Shared
broken.
custody. From what I understand, Superman and Batman don't always get along, and so the fact is like, here's my kid, go babysit for the summer.
But you know what? They always have that mutual respect with you.
Yes, they do have a very similar.
They
basis
are
for morals.
very much the light and the dark of each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also, nobody brought up Shazam. How did anybody feel? Yeah, we didn't even talk about Shazam. He's actually crucial to this story.
Superman and Shazam fights are very common. This one just happens to have probably the most brutal Superman.
Oh yeah, Superman
tragic.
eyes is all bleeding out and stuff. I mean, how did you? I just love how Shazam was like basically just Lex Luthor's guinea pig. I just love that.
He was just so broken, and just like the dual like personalities, and just that childlike vulnerability, and then like I think with that child vulnerability also came the like the truth that he knew what he had to do. Because children have such a very clear, I feel like a very clear sense of like right and wrong, because they're so pure. So it's just so sad the way it ended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you see, I know that this book definitely won an Eisner and I think a Harvey. And I mean, there's real reasons why I had to go back to this book. I feel like they haven't really successfully created to what this book was about in preludes. They did do JSA The Kingdom, which is a prelude to this book. I really wouldn't recommend that. That is not what Mark Waid is really looking for.
Yeah, it wasn't that great.
But you know, there's still even today, like you know, just kind of spoiler alert, guys. In the new Batman Beyond stuff, he's even fighting Alloy, who is the Metal Men combined. You know, we're seeing Magog in Justice Society of America.
And also,
I mean, Red Robin's even a predominant figure in Batman these days.
yeah, and I mean, also, I mean, Warner Brothers just announced that they are going to do a DC animation film adaptation of Kingdom Come, so I mean, that shows a lot right there too, you know. But if everybody got anything else to say, closing arguments, say now, keep your peace.
Very good book. Not just for a graphic novel standpoint or comic book standpoint, but on this is a classic piece of literature standpoint.
Yeah, I can honestly say I don't know too many people that have really, you know, not liked this book. I mean, sure there is kind of similarities, like you know, as Ali was saying, you know, it's kind of close to Civil War, but at the same time, it still has its own story, and I really feel like out of all the Elseworlds books that DC does, this one really hits home for a lot of people.
Last words, Ali?
I wouldn't say this is the best book to start into the DC universe, but it's a very beautiful, well-illustrated book. It's an interesting storyline, and I do think it's rather timeless in the themes that it picks up on.
I definitely recommend reading this book, and I definitely recommend anything done by Mark Waid story-wise, and I definitely recommend anything artist-wise done by Alice Ross. Definitely check out Justice. And that's what Darryl K Says.
Alright, so next week we're going to be talking about Walking Dead Season 1 versus Volume 1. What's the difference?
I'm so excited.
Check us out. And that's what Darryl K Says.
I'm Slim Shady, yes, I'm the real Shady.
First of all, that better not be a damn show.